8 years later, the long-awaited horror Scorn hit the stores and turned out to be not the game that the players were waiting for. Scorn is an ambitious artwork that is not aimed at the mass user, but at a limited circle of people familiar with the work of such personalities as Dario Argento, David Cronenberg, and Albert Camus. Because of this, many players simply did not understand why Scorn is not a meaty shooter in a creepy scenery, not a hide-and-seek horror like Outlast, and not a walking simulator with a clear storyline. In most cases, after completing the Scorn, many players have an important question: what the hell is going on here, and what have I been looking at for 3 to 5 hours? The ending of the game not only does not provide answers to numerous questions, but, on the contrary, leads to a dead end in understanding the game world. Because of this, players scold Scorn for the lack of a plot and thoughtful mythology of the world. The RTV Gaming channel has studied all the available materials, and in this video we will tell you what the Scorn story was about and give several interpretations of the scenario invented by Ebb Software. To begin with, let's look at the plot of the game without diving into philosophy and authors' interpretations. Let's imagine that Scorn is the usual horror with the usual flat plot in creepy scenery. The game takes place in a dying world where everything is gradually decaying. Before the sad outcome, the planet was inhabited by humanoid creatures similar to people, which were usually divided into higher and lower. The first were born naturally, that is, by the habitual copulation of a male and female. The second appeared from the cocoons of a single mother wall. The lower ones were considered drones. Their life purpose was aimed only at ensuring the well-being of the higher ones. They were not considered human, but were mistaken for a bag of bones. Majestic structures were built from the bodies of billions of drones, and their insides became a kind of fuel for the functioning of countless mechanisms. Also, this world was inhabited by a large number of homunculi, who were not distinguished by high growth and a developed body, but at the same time they had an unrealistically high intelligence. They were born in special capsules on the ground, not far from the mother wall. Higher beings used the brains of homunculi to build large-scale plants and factories that could function on biological fuel. Having reached the peak of the development of civilization, higher beings have discovered a way of rebirth through a single neural connection. Having abandoned the aging physical body, they gained immortality. Homunculi also wanted to have access to a single mind, but they were denied this privilege, as they were mistaken for ugly drones. But if the latter did not even think of trying to overthrow the power of the higher, then the former, without hesitation, declared war on the higher. The homunculi created robotic exosuits that gave them incredible strength and power. Armed with biological grenade launchers, they attacked the capital city of Polis. The bloody war ended with the destruction of both races and total devastation around the world. Numerous factories without management and maintenance began to produce biological masses, which gradually spread through the buildings like a disease. The ecosystem was destroyed, and the world for a huge amount of time began to decompose into decay and atoms. Disease struck the mother wall, and the drones in most cases appeared stillborn. Many cocoons appeared too high, and after birth, lower beings crashed on the hard, lifeless earth. Those who managed to survive at birth tried to get to the remains of the destroyed polis and join the single mind, which was previously inaccessible to them. The game starts as a drone trying to get to the capital, but fails and falls into the underground labyrinths of a biofuel plant. There he finds a key weapon and gets to the main gate. To get out, he needs to open the shutters with the bio-lock. The hero did not notice that the building was full of mutating rot, so when the third key was turned, it pierced the shell and filled the space, including our protégé. After some time, the main protagonist of the game, commonly referred to as Scorn Guy, awakens at the mother wall. Deprived of his main tasks, he, like the first character, decides to get to Polis and get rid of the physical shell. On his way, he meets an unknown creepy creature, which is actually the same drone that was flooded with biological mass. The mutilated drone tried to get to Polis for a long time, but due to limited opportunities he could not do it. After waiting for a moment, he pounces on the main character and clings to his back. A healthy creature gives the parasite legs and the ability to interact with the world. The parasite, in return, helps fight off the creatures of the mutagenic fluid. Gradually, the symbiote, feeding on vital juices, will germinate in the body of the protagonist and take full control over the body. During the journey through the devastation and chaos of the dying world, the hero gets to the policy. There, he encounters a robotic homunculus and defeats him in combat. At this time, the parasite almost completely took over the protagonist's body, depriving him of the ability to interact with levers and locks, and because of this, he cannot complete the process of rebirth. Having found a mechanism to remove the parasite, the hero manages to throw off the unwanted passenger, but at the same time he seriously injures the body. From the last strength, he gets to the mechanism for rebirth and connects to a single mind with higher beings. To complete the ritual, he needs to get rid of the body and go into the portal, where the remnants of the mind of a higher civilization live. With the help of a robotic system, his skull is sawn and his brain is connected by a neural thread with a single consciousness. To keep the impulses from the brain going, the character's body is mutilated until the ritual is completed. The hero, controlling two dummies, takes his body and carries it to a kind of portal, where the final stage of rebirth should take place. At this time, a parasite appears out of nowhere and throws the body of the protagonist from the hands of a mannequin. It captures the immobilized body of the drone and merges with it into a single hole a couple of steps from the portal. Neither one nor the second was able to reach the desired goal, turning into a terrible monument at the foot of the majestic statues of the higher ones, who managed to be reborn. The main theme of the plot of Scorn is the mystery of the origin of life in the human body. A process that mankind can explain in terms of biology, but cannot fully explain it in natural and philosophical aspects. The world of Scorn is literally saturated with the themes of natural and artificial birth of the fetus, as well as the consequences of these processes. Since there is no text with dialogues in the game world has to be studied through the analysis of the environment and interaction with objects. The game universe is a woman's body, affected by a dangerous disease. Each level is an organ or system recognizable in terms of biological structure. Artists consciously got rid of the obvious signs of biomechanics that are in Giger's paintings, and concentrated on materials of biological origin, such as bones, skin, organs, fluids and vessels. Thanks to the work of Zdzisław Beksinski, the developers managed to assemble mechanisms recognizable to the players from materials of animal origin with a creepy, but beautiful appearance in their own way. The plot of Scorn is divided into a prologue and a main line. Through two protagonists, we are given the opportunity to better understand the game world and feel the difference between seemingly identical, but still different characters. Both heroes are inherently prototypes of nascent life, who have to go through a difficult path until birth. There are several interpretations of who the main characters of Scorn actually are. If we take a more logical version into consideration, then the first Scorn guy is a consciousness enclosed in a fetus artificially fertilized using IVF, in vitro fertilization, technology. The first location he enters is a workshop for the production of fertilized eggs. The hero needs to get a cell with a fertilized cell, which should help him get out of the locked location. The player is given a moral choice, how to extract the creature from the capsule. There are two ways, caesarean section and abortion. After the first, we save the life of the newborn, while leaving him trapped with his hand stuck in the key compartment. Developers tell us that babies born by caesarean are more helpless than those born naturally. If we choose the abortion option, then we take the severed hand from the dead fetus and use it in the lock puzzle. One way or another, our hero regards a living organism as a tool to achieve his goal. Further, the protagonist of the prologue makes his way through the infected labyrinths, which resemble the fallopian tubes and the circulatory system. The walls and objects of the location are covered with tumors and biological growths of unnatural origin. Consequently, the body in which the hero lives is in a state of neglected disease. By activating the immune system, we see how white blood cells in the form of flying drones begin to fight the infection. At the same time, The body itself gradually comes to life and tries to function. To get out of the closed location, the hero needs to activate the biological lock, which is a kind of ovary, in which you need to add 3 capsules with spermatozoa. On the last capsule, the structure explodes and floods everything, including our hero, with an unknown substance. In this liquid, the character mutates into a disease that, by its properties, hints at cancer. Scientists have not exactly proven that IVF affects the development of cancerous tumors, but such a theory exists. Having finished with the prologue, we get into the main game. The second hero, unlike the previous one, appears naturally. The mother wall is the egg from which the character emerges into a creepy, disease-ridden world. The whole wasteland is strewn with dead bodies, which hints at how many unfertilized eggs die in a lifetime. Our protagonist got a chance at life, which the dead on the location are deprived of. Moving around the location, we see huge structures that resemble the internal organs of a person. Health, to put it mildly, they do not shine. All buildings are gradually destroyed and turn into dust, hinting that not only the reproductive system, but the entire body is affected by the disease. Having reached the next level, we are attacked by the previous character, who mutated into a terrible creature. It attaches to the body of the protagonist, creating a kind of symbiosis necessary for survival in a hostile environment. The motive of the parasite cannot be fully understood, since it has already lost all the primary signs of the creature that it was originally. There is a possibility that the parasite is not even a disease, but a manifestation of the extremely rare phenomenon of the parasite twin. This happens when the fetus of one twin absorbs the less developed one. Since the character from the prologue received a weapon key, his chances of survival became noticeably greater than that of the hero from the main game. Making his way through corridors that look like organs and fighting creatures born of an unknown disease, the protagonist encounters a giant disfigured monster. The origin of this creation is not explained. It is not hostile and does not threaten the hero. Initially, it may seem that the creature is the culprit of the disease that happened in the world of the game. A kind of megamind that controls all the opponents in the game. In fact, this is far from being a monster, but a kind of author's manifestation of the maternal essence. Therefore, this creature does not react to shots. To go further in the story, the protagonist will have to kill the monster by making 3 cesarean sections on his body. With this metaphor, the screenwriter shows the suffering of a mother who sacrifices her life for the life and health of a child. Only after the murder will our hero leave the sick and dying organism in order to finally reach the place of rebirth. The walled city of Polis represents the final point of contact of the fetus with the real world. The place where consciousness is born. The huge neural connection at the base of the main hall is actually the brain of the organism the protagonist is in. To realize the connection of the protagonist with the nervous system of Polis, the player needs to go through a special ritual, which is actually the process of childbirth. The homunculus boss prevents us from calmly passing the game. He personifies the cortical homunculus, a distorted representation of the human body based on the areas of the brain responsible for the motor and sensory function of different parts of the body. Fighting with this creature, our hero forms the necessary nerve fibers that are necessary for every person after birth. The parasite at this time practically took over the body of the hero. To be born a healthy person, the protagonist needs to get rid of an unwanted companion. He finds a special machine that can uproot the parasite. This natural mechanism is called the vanishing twin syndrome. It occurs when one of a pair of twins during pregnancy disappears from the uterus, and then, as a rule, a normal singleton pregnancy continues. An interesting fact, in 12% of women, pregnancy begins with the development of more than one fetus, but only in 2% of cases more than one child is born. Having got rid of the parasite, our hero receives serious injuries that can lead to death of the fetus during birth. The protagonist will be saved by a robot statue, which personifies an obstetrician-gynecologist. It connects the character's brain with the body's brain through a neural connection, which symbolizes the acquisition of consciousness. At the same time, The robot statue constantly inflicts injuries on the body of the protagonist, symbolizing the pain experienced by the mother during childbirth. In the finale, the hero, controlling two pregnant mannequins, takes his body into the hall, at the end of which there is a portal in the form of female genital organs. The birth process is almost completed, when suddenly the very parasite that we got rid of jumps out and merges with our protagonist into a single substance. The ending of the game can be interpreted in different ways. The first option, if the parasite really turned out to be a twin brother, then at the end of the story it still manages to gain a foothold in the body of a healthy individual, turning into a Siamese twin. About half of Siamese twins are born dead, so the uneducated being never gets to rebirth. Second, if the parasite actually turned out to be a cancer cell, then, most likely, it did not allow the sick, remember the smoldering world and growths in locations, body to give birth to a healthy child. As a result, we see a stillborn child who, to the very end, resisted all misfortunes, wanting to find a new life. The newly formed creature next to the portal hints at a cancerous tumor, as a result of artificial insemination in an organism neglected by diseases. As a result, the plot of Scorn is much deeper than it might seem at first glance. Due to the lack of familiar ways of storytelling, many players simply did not capture the full depth of the story. At the same time, the script does not open one's eyes to something new and does not provide much food for thought. Much more surprising is the fact with which the developers tried to tell the story through the auditory and visual design. Yes, Scorn does not have the usual and familiar gameplay for everyone, but let's be honest, not all games with familiar gameplay have really catchy art design and detailed study of locations for the sake of storytelling. Scorn is the standout performance of 2022 in my opinion.